In this episode, we're going to look at how to create advanced commands with arguments and with permissions. So for that, go into your IntelliJ project and let's create a very basic command first. If you don't know how to create commands yet, just look at the last episode. So let's first register our command in the plugin.yml. So under the command section, simply enter the main label of your command. And for this episode, I thought we're going to make a command that changes the amount of maximum hearts you can have. So I'm going to call the command health scale. The description will be changes the maximum amount of lives you can have. We are also going to use an alias HS for health scale. So in your on enable, simply get the command health scale, set the executor to new health scale command, and now we're going to create the health scale command class. So commands health scale command, implements command executor, and implement the onCommand method. And again, this is all we learned in the last episode. So if you don't know what happens here right now, watch the last episode again. And now I just like to rename the parameters to better names: command sender, string label, and arguments. Return true. So the first thing we want to do is to exclude all command senders that are not players. So type not sender instance of final player. And if that's the case, we're going to send a message: only players can execute this command. Return true. And for now, we just want to make the command set the health scale of the player to 3 hearts, for example. So player set health scale and set it to 6. This will give the player 6 half hearts and thus 3 full hearts. And this is what it looks like in game. And as you can see, this is what it did to our health scale. And what we want to do now is to allow the player to enter the amount of hearts he wants to have. So for example, the command should work like this: /health scale and then 5. And this should give the player 5 half hearts. And for this, we will use this parameter here, the string array. This holds all the values the player enters as arguments to the command. So everything that's behind the main command here. For example, the number of hearts. So this would be an argument, which will be saved in this arguments array. And to access those values, we refer to the args variable, and in brackets, we type the position of the argument we want. So for example, if we have a command /game mode, player name, and mode, this is the command, the main label, which is saved in this variable, and those two, in this example, are the arguments, which are saved in this array here. This is argument number 0. And this is argument number 1. Since in our example the command will look like this, this is the only argument and it is saved in position 0. So we can access it with referring to the args variable and accessing the value at position 0, which is entered in the brackets right behind the variable name. And let's save that into a variable string. Let's call it hearts argument. And now we have to make sure that the player only enters valid input into this argument. So only numbers and only numbers above 0 and below 40. So we can do it with if string utils dot is numeric hearts argument, and if that's not the case, then the player entered something that is not a number. And we want to send a message: please only enter numbers from 1 to 40. And return true. Now we can safely pass the input into an integer, int hearts equals integer dot pass int and hearts argument. And now we want to check if the entered number is between 1 and 40. We do it with another if statement. So if hearts is below or equal to 0, or hearts is above 40, then we want to send the player a message again. Send message. Actually the same message as here. So you can extract that to a variable. Private static final string invalid arguments message equal to And now we're just going to send this and the same here and return true. Set the health scale to whatever the player entered. And let's just send a confirmation message, send message. Your health scale has been adjusted, for example. So enter health scale and 10. And 10 is equal to 5 hearts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it worked. But now we have another problem. If we don't enter an argument, you can see error occurred. Because here we're accessing a value which doesn't exist. So this variable refers to this value, but it doesn't actually exist because we didn't enter any argument. So we can fix it by simply checking if the arguments array has a certain length. And in this case, we need to check if it is at least 1, because anything behind it we can just ignore. We'll just access this value right here. So if args.length below 1, we send the player a message, send message with the correct usage, and then we're going to return. And as you can see, health scale, we now get the usage message and /health scale 2, for example, this still works. Now we have 1 heart. Health scale and anything else that's not a number also works. And anything below 1, for example, -2, also doesn't work. And above 40, 41, everything works. And this was basically everything you need to know about arguments. And the second part of this video is how to secure your commands, because you don't want any random player to adjust their health scale like this. And we can do that with permissions. And this is actually very easy. Many other developers do it with an if statement, but I will show you a way easier method. So what other developers mostly do, they check if the player has the permission, for example, tutorial, health scale, and if that's not the case, they simply send the player a message. You don't have permission to use this command, and they return. And this will look like this. And the preferred method to do it is in the plugin.yml. For the command you want to secure, simply add a field called permission and enter the permission you want the user to need. For example, tutorial health scale. And as you can see, the advantage of this is that the player doesn't even get the autocomplete suggestion for it. Health scale. And the client of the player will just think that this command doesn't exist at all. And in the next episode, we will learn about a very interesting topic regarding commands, which is tab completions. For example, when you enter your command, the player will have a menu where you can choose between valid arguments of your command.